Possible problem number 1. Perhaps your right hand, your hi-hat hand, is a little bit too low. If I show you here, my right hand is quite low there, pointing upward towards the hi-hat. Doesn't really leave my left hand very much room to maneuver to play the snare drum. What I usually tell my students to do is to raise that right hand so that the tip of the stick is on the top of the hi-hat. Now, commonly what they do is this. Either this, they raise their whole arm to play the top, or they raise the shoulder to play the top. We don't really want either of these. That's going to mean your shoulder muscle is engaged throughout your playing, not very comfortable eventually. So there's your hi-hat hand too low. I want you to imagine you have a little string in your wrist and someone's going to pull that string, up it goes. So notice my elbow stays low by my side. What we don't want is to move the elbow away. So keep the elbow beside your body. Notice the wrist has now a little bend in it, and I'm going to play my hi-hat with my wrist only. And you'll notice I get a nice, sharp, clean sound on the hi-hat. Now, if you have your hand too low and you play the hi-hat, or you're playing the edge, you get a very different sound. Check this out. Now, I'm not playing any harder. It's just the fact of hitting on the edge gives a thicker, kind of more aggressive sound. You might want that at some point, but I usually just get my students to try and start with the tip of the stick on the top of the hi-hat. That way, they're going to get a nice clean sound, and it's going to do for most sort of pop music, all right? Some of my younger students still don't quite get it, so I put my hands like this and I say, imagine you're a Tyrannosaurus Rex. So if I put my stick in there like that, there we go. Because some of the students are very much smaller, so if they're smaller they have to reach up. Most of them will do this. Try not to do that. Try to just raise from the wrist, and even if it ends up that you're looking like this is going to be much more comfortable and easier to do than if you're doing this. So secondly, let's look at the snare drum. Now, when we're hitting the snare drum, we want to make sure that we can hit the snare drum as parallel to the surface of the drum as we can. So if we imagine this is the snare drum, there's my drumstick hitting the snare drum. We want to make sure that the stick is just slightly above the level of the snare drum, like that. All right? So what we don't want is this. Okay, because you notice there that's the point of the stick that's hitting in. It's going to dent your drum head or your mesh head on your E-kit. So try to flatten that out so it's almost parallel, just above the height of the rim of your drum, okay? So if I do that, that's going to keep my left hand much lower and hopefully out of the way of my right hand, especially if I've raised my right hand up a bit. Now, the second element of the snare drum is that often when new drummers strike the drum, they don't have much control. So what they tend to do is let the drumstick bounce up too high after they hit the drum, something like this. And so if the drumstick comes up that high and you're trying to play with your right hand over the top, you can tell it's going to mean that your sticks will hit off each other quite often. So how do we solve that? Well, we do what we call in drumming a downstroke or a controlled stroke. All that means is just after you strike the drum, you just give a little squeeze in here with your finger and thumb. So after I strike the drum, just a little squeeze, and I don't let my wrist come back up with the stick. So just a little squeeze. I don't squeeze all the time, I just squeeze for a very short time after my drumstick has hit the drum. Hopefully you can see the drumstick is kind of going boing. And that way, my stick is not going to come up beyond the height of the hi-hat, and so hopefully my right hand and my left hand now are not going to strike each other. Okay. The final thing that often will go wrong is just the coordination of the movement between the right and left hand. Sometimes the timing is just not quite there. So how do we fix it? Well, the hi-hat is going to play all the eighth notes when we're playing a groove. It's going to play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now my snare drum is only going to play it twice on beat 2 and beat 4. In my head I'm thinking, I need to prepare my snare drum 1/8 note before my snare drum has to play. So the and of 1. So 1 and. And that and of 1 is going to make me lift my left hand. 1 and 2. So you notice my hands can move together. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. So my left stick can move beyond the height of the hi-hat, but only if my right stick comes up as well. And that can also be the case for beat 4. So I lift up on the and of 3. So if I do a whole bar for you, it's going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... What I'm doing then is preparing my snare drum 1/8 note. I'm lifting up 1/8 note before I have to play. So the and of 1 and the and of 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now if you practice that quite slowly and carefully and make sure you're coordinating the movement, again that should help just to keep your hands away from each other. Okay, so quick recap. Be careful you don't have your right hand too low. Just imagine you have a little string. There we go, up onto the tip of the hi-hat. The tip of the stick on the top of the hi-hat. Next, left hand parallel to the drum head, and also making sure that after we play the note, after we strike the drum, we have a little squeeze. And then finally, the coordination between the two hands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now if I put that together in a groove that you might recognize, putting the bass drum on 1 and 3, it's going to sound and look like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now just before I go, one final thing. I see people trying to fix this same problem, this stick hitting off each other. I see them trying to fix it by doing this, by moving their right hand away from their body so that they leave space for their left hand to strike the drum underneath. Now there's a few reasons why that's not a good strategy. First of all, again, you're using your shoulder muscle too much, so it's going to get sore. We don't want that if we can help it. There's no reason why our shoulder should be involved in this at all. The second problem of it is usually people don't put their hand too far away because it's uncomfortable, so it comes closer and closer, which means they start to hit the snare drum closer to the edge of the drum. And if I just show you the difference between the edge and the middle of the drum, it sounds very different. Quite boingy and thin sounding. If I hit the middle of the drum, it's much fatter and fuller sound and a bit thicker. So that's what we're looking for. We don't really want this sound. Alright, so commonly when people do that, they don't put their arm very far away, so they end up, hitting kind of close to the edge of the snare drum. Alright? I wouldn't suggest moving your arm away. It's a common thing. I think I did it as well when I was younger. I really don't suggest that. So very quick recap. Raise the wrist up. Keep the snare drum stick nice and flat. Squeeze after the strike. Try to get the timing. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now I hope that helps you all, and I'll see you again soon.